Guys, please be ready for dictation from the Hindu editorial section dated 22nd November 2021. Ready? In what is turning out to be a predictable sequence in the annual Swachh Sarvekshan Awards, Indore was ranked the cleanest city for the fifth year, followed by Surat and Vijayawada. Chhattisgarh was the cleanest state for the third time in the category of states with more than 100 urban local bodies. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's constituency, Varanasi, won for the cleanest Ganga city. The organizer, the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, surveyed 4,322 cities for nearly a month and solicited feedback from 4.2 crore people. The metrics (cities) where garbage disposal, open defecation-free ratings, functionality and maintenance of community toilets and safe management of fecal sludge. The Sarvekshan Awards have a wide range of categories that segregates cities based on their population while they attempt to capture the diversity of urban agglomerations on the other. It is hard to deflect criticism. Every state has at least a few participants who will top one category or the other, thus making the process a giant appeasement scheme along with a category such as states with over 100 urban local bodies (ULB) where Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh were ranked second and third respectively. There was also a top ranker for a state with less than 100 ULBs where Jharkhand was judged the cleanest. Then there was a category for a Ganga city and separate pollution-wise categories. This year there was a novel Prerak Daur Samman that saw Indore, Surat, Navi Mumbai, New Delhi Municipal Council and Tirupati categorized as Divya (Platinum). They were assessed for solid waste management. Unsurprisingly, these were entities that had already topped ranks in other categories. Rankings serve two broad purposes: a publicity boost and recognition for the other winners, but also motivation to climb higher on the totem pole. Though the number of cities surveyed has increased since the first edition of the survey in 2016, it appears that the same cities, Indore, Surat, for instance, keep topping the list. 6 years is a good time to take stock of what the ranking program intends to achieve. Is it motivating cities to significantly allocate resources towards improving sanitation? Are cleaner cities cleaner because they are better positioned to access state funds and thus able to pull further away from other cities? Do states focus their energies and funds in keeping some cities clean to avail of a rank in any of the wide number of categories? Reducing a metric as complex as sanitation and cleanliness to blunt rankings can often induce a false sense of progress, both at the regional level and at the center. There should be more qualitative analysis of whether India's cities are getting cleaner in the aggregate or if numbers are hiding inequity. The massive mobilization of Russian troops on the Ukraine border and occasional outbreak of violence along the line of contact between the Russia-backed Rebels in the contested Donbas region and Ukrainian troops have pushed both countries to the brink of an open conflict. There were similar scenes earlier this year, but Moscow, after US diplomatic intervention, pulled back. This time, however, the more emphatic Russian moves appear to be part of a larger strategy of force projection across Russia's western perimeter from the Baltic Sea to the Black Sea. On the EU's Polish border, Belarus, a Russian ally, was blamed for orchestrating a migration crisis. Amid tensions, Russia flew bombers near Poland's borders earlier this month. In the Black Sea, Russian President Vladimir Putin dispatched vessels to shadow US warships. The US has warned its allies of a possible Russian attack on Ukraine. Russia's aggressiveness could have partly been driven by Mr. Putin's assessment that the US was strategically weakened after its Afghan withdrawal and its preoccupation with China's rise in East Asia. This gives him a window of opportunity to reassert Russian primacy in its backyard, which has seen significant NATO advances. This makes Ukraine, which Russia sees, according to scholars at Carnegie, as a Western aircraft carrier parked just across southern Russia, at the center of Russia's geopolitical tussle with the West. In 2015, an open conflict was averted after the Minsk Second Peace Agreement was signed under the mediation of France and Germany. It was designed to end the fighting in the rebel regions and hand over the border to Ukraine's national troops. Ukraine was required to delegate more power to the breakaway regions and introduce constitutional reforms codifying their special status. Russia's nod for the agreement was possibly because it thought that delegation of power to the rebels would enhance Moscow's leverage that it could use to prevent Ukraine's full integration with the West. But Kyiv's reluctance to implement the agreement and its growing military, economic and political ties with the West seem to have prompted Mr. Putin to change his approach to putting Kyiv under direct military pressure. Kyiv is now in a tough spot. It lacks the military resources to deter its giant neighbor. While it gets military supplies from the West, there is no guarantee that the West would come to its help in the event of a Russian invasion. On the other side, Russia might make tactical gains from an invasion, like it did from the annexation of Crimea in 2014, but such a move could further deteriorate its already ruptured ties with the West. So, a practical solution is to revive the Minsk peace process. The West should push both sides to resume talks and live up to their commitments as per the Minsk agreement to restore relative peace on the border.